back here because we haven't actually seen Jun's version of this path yet, so... Alright. Here we go with Jun. With Watase's command at the trigger, the group split up into their teams. Buddy and Buddy, yeah. Watase and Jun first entered B2 of the inner ring. Now I wonder if this would be different if we didn't have that earlier moment with Jun. Jun, where we agreed that we were partners, buddies, doing the buddy system of exploring the contaminated zone. Because if you take the other senses option there, and you don't get the buddy dialogue with Jun, then after you do that contaminated zone run, you're just superior and subordinate. I like the buddy-buddy route better. After that brief exchange, the two of them checked all their rooms in a hurry, all the while believing that they'd find the survivors in one of them. However, the search yielded no results. They then headed in the direction of the stairwell, but the inner ring's emergency stairwell was unusable. The part on B1 was intact. Everything below it had crumbled, leaving it impossible to climb. It was at that moment that Watase remembered what he had with him. A 10-meter rope he'd been carrying around this whole time. Watase calmly picked up some debris and tied the end of the rope to it. He then tossed the rope up and it caught on the B1 staircase. He tugged it several times to test its strength, but it appeared that the rope was firmly secure. I'll climb over you. Two of them climbed the rope as they smiled at their playful exchange. Two of them left the rope where it was. That way they could use it again when they had to go back down, and there was a chance they might need to climb back up anyway. Two of them started searching the floor in high spirits. The first room they went to appeared to not have been touched by the fire at all. Jun shouted as soon as she walked in. Actually, yeah, huh? Watase looked closer to find a familiar device lying in a corner of the room. Clearly the prokions are set up to detect WX particles. And they aren't actually Geiger counters. They didn't know if the need for that would ever arise, but the two of them decided to take it just to be safe. They looked around to see if there was anything else worth taking with them. They didn't find any AD. There was a bound stack of papers on the table that Watase took interest in. Watase and Jun stood together to read the manual. Most of it was more or less the same as the one Yuri had shown them, but there was a new page at the very end, not present in either manual. We've seen this. Take the staircase, but take the cargo lift, but the cargo lift is fucked. Two of them started trembling when they read that passage. Watase and Jun both looked at each other. They were both grinning from ear to ear. Being trapped in the basement all this time, they'd finally found the clue they needed about the one escape route that still worked.
でもそれってどこにあるの？
さっきは気づかなかったが、あの焼けただれたファクトリーのどこかにあるんだろう。だが先に要救助者の捜索だ。脱出口が見つかっても要救助者を確保してなきゃ無意味だからな。
そうだね。
Watase shoved the manual into his pocket and ran out of the room. However, in the end, they went through all the rooms, yet found no hide nor hair of the survivors or any AD. But, check that. Two of them headed for the connecting passageway that led to the factory. The passageway was blocked by debris further in, so they couldn't travel past that. The only thing up ahead was the factory, meaning that they've completed their search of the inner ring. Jun frowned in puzzlement as they turned around.
おかしいね。夏彦くんたちどこにもいないよ。
確かに妙だな。だがファクトリーにいるのかもしれない。
じゃあ私たちも戻って向こうの捜索を手伝おう。
そうだな。あるいはひょっとして彼らを。
Before Watase could say any more, he suddenly heard a sound at his feet.
なんだ。
Both of them looked down in surprise and found that there were cracks where Jun was standing. The floor was giving way. Just as Watase thought that, time slowed down for him. He was seeing everything in slow motion. Jun tried to jump back at once, but the floor at her feet collapsed right then. Watase shot his hand out as fast as lightning and grabbed Jun's arm. The truth is revealed. I don't know why this song has a real Snatcher vibe to it. Whether just that opening ditty to it, or that in the background. Pain ran through his cracked ribs instantly. Gah! Put up with it and grasped Jun's arm tightly. Dust blew up from the crumbled floor, but it soon began to clear up. And there's Jun. Hi, Jun. Revealing Jun's face on the other side.
危ないところだったな、森部。
隊長、すごい。私でさえ何の反応もできなかったのに。
いや、なんかやばいと思ってな。
それにしてもびっくりしたよ。まさか急に崩れるなんて。
ああ、恐れ入るよ。通路も破壊するお前の体重にはな。
Rude.
レディーに向かってなんてこと言ってんの？デリカシーがないんだよ。
That pout, though.
冗談だ。引き上げるからそっちの手も貸してくれ。
Roger, Dodger. Watase grabbed Jun's other hand and pulled her up. That's an amazing that was an amazing translation. I love that. Roger, Dodger.
森部、怪我はなかったか？
うん、体の方はね。心には深い傷を負ったけど。
そうかい。それにしても。
Watase looked at the now partially collapsed passageway.
第6エリアはよほど火災によるダメージがひどかったんだな。
そうだね。他のみんなは大丈夫かな？
早く戻ってみんなの無事を確認しよう。
The two of them nodded at each other, then ran through the passageway together. Okay, are we done? Yeah, we're pretty much.
なんかドスンって音が鳴ったけど。
Just everyone else we left behind
大したことない
reacting.
さ。連絡通。
Yeah, nope, didn't find anything.
まで捜索して。
And we're gonna find the escape route.
リフト？何ですかそれは？
Yeah, the only variation in this scene in the aftermath are just the people we didn't take with us
ファクトリーのどこかに地上に脱出できるリフトがあるらしいんだよ。
reacting to those that we did. We're going here to point out something that was explained to me about the actual good ending requirements for after.
隊長、記憶喪失なのに修理なんてできるの？
Before we defer to Jun, as far as helping with repairs.
わからんが、ちょっとやってみたいんだ。手が覚えているかもしれないしな。
In this choice, we reversed our choices, so we're gonna try and take over.
じゃあ、ちょっとやってみてよ。私もついてるから。
Jun is not thrilled.
信用ないな。まあ見てろって。
Watase nodded and took the army knife from Jun. After fiddling around with the control panel for about 3 minutes, Watase concluded that it didn't seem like he could repair it at all.
ダメだな。さっぱりわからん。
Could tell that some parts weren't wired properly, but he hadn't the slightest idea how to repair them.
だから言ったじゃん。言っちゃ悪いけど時間の無駄だよ。
So this is a choice that would cost us the good ending. For taking it. I'd say one of the indicators was, there are instances after this fact where someone actively mentions that a bad choice we made was a waste of time. I think the choice that killed my first run, as it was explained, as it was pointed out to me, I didn't even pick up on the mention of this at the time, but or else I would have probably tried to go back and just undo that if I remembered that. But it was when we were trying to figure out what to do with the gun. I think I stuck up. I think I went for Jun when we went for the gun, and then a red choice came up that led to a bad ending. And when I rewound, I just rewound to that red choice and moved on, and that wasted enough time to where Natsuhiko died. We're gonna see this just because.
服を脱がして。隊長だから鉄拳行為だよ、このドエロ。
ドエロだと。お前意外と元気だな。心配して損したぜ。
勝手なこと言ってんだよ。だいたい服脱がさなくても傷のとこだけハサミで切って開けばいいじゃん。
それもそうだな。
As I searched through a nearby desk and quickly found a pair of scissors.
あったぞ森部。こっちに背中を向けてくれ。
余計なところ切るんじゃないよ。
As I cut open part of her uniform with the scissors, revealing a wound about 2 centimeters wide. He rubbed Kuran on it, causing Jun's body to tremble with the start.
ちょっと動くなって。
Yeah.
でもくすぐったくて。
優しくしてるんじゃないかよ。とにかくもう少し我慢しろ。
Jun's wound finally closed up after Watase had used half the tube on it.
これでひとまず安心だな。
But a gloomy expression rose to Jun's face in spite of the fact that Watase had finished treating her.
どうしたんだ森部。そんな顔して。傷が痛むか。
そうじゃないけど。
Jun looked around the room after muttering that, and then continued.
ところで隊長、浮田さんは？
俺が手当てをしている間に捜索を進めるというから先に行かせたよ。
一人で
？Jun's face grew grim at those words.
何やってんの隊長。素人を単独行動させるなんて危険でしょ。
I mean, yeah.
俺もそう言ったんだが聞かなくてな。
だったら隊長も早く追いなよ。私も行くから。
Jun then tried to stand up, but she staggered on her feet.
いや、お前は頭を打ったばかりだ。ここで少し休んでからにしろ。
Jun paused for a moment, then quickly nodded.
俺は第2エリア方面に向かう。回復したら追ってきてくれ。
了解。
ああ、それと森部。
何？
さっきは助けてくれてありがとな。
Jun finally smiled at that.
気にしないで。
Watase returned her smile and left the laboratory. Watase took a quick run through Area 1 to look for Akita. He's nowhere to be found.
いるか？
No answer to his shouts. But what's his new? Must have gone on ahead. Watase then headed towards Area 2 in search of Akita. Okay, now we're back to where we left off. I don't remember if this choice was here before, but we do have the senses input here. I was trying for Jun's epilogue.
仕方ありません。ここは
Yeah, we just fell back without question before.
いいのか森部はお前の妹分なのに。
ああなってしまってはおそらく私にも説得は無理でしょうから。
Kazami's pain statement was absolutely correct. But Watase couldn't accept that. Moribe and I are buddies, even though she doubts me and thinks I betrayed her trust. There's no way in hell I could let myself run away from her. Watase steeled himself and turned to Kazami.
立花、子供たちを頼む。
どうするおつもりで。
一か八か説得してみる。お前は絶対に来るなよ。
Watase left Natsuhiko in Kazami's capable hands, and leapt out from the shadow of the passageway. Jun's body shook with a start. She gripped the engine cutter firmly and stared at Watase.
隊長。
森部、そんなもの何に使うつもりだ。
何って。隊長、私にそれを聞くの？
森部、あの研究室の扉を破壊したのはお前か。
Watase took her silence as a yes. You could tell that a look of sorrow was forming on his face. God damn it. The Jun who was prowling the facility while muttering curses and wielding a tool of destruction. She seemed like a totally different person from the Jun he knew. The Jun who kept on running around and doing her best in spite of her small stature. The Jun who plunged right into the contaminated zone alongside him without any concern for her own safety. The Jun who chose this line of work in order to save people in spite of the wounds she carried on her heart and back from Nagisa's death. So why?
どうしてお前がそんなもの持たなきゃいけないんだ。
Jun gave Watase a sad smile after she heard his shouts.
隊長、私ね、気づいちゃったんだよ。この狂った現状じゃ普通のやり方じゃみんなを守れないって。だから私は。
よせ、そんなのは間違ってる。
Watase walked up to Jun. Her face froze over at that action.
隊長、来ないで。隊長も疑ってんだ。これ以上近づいたら私は自分を抑えられない。
What? I can't hear you, Jun. I'm coming closer.
うるせえ。やれるもんならやってみろ。
Please, I've died like 20 times already. Resolution filled Jun's eyes. Watase was just 5 meters away from her. Watase took another step forward. Just then, Kazami shouted from behind. Resolution in Jun's eyes wavered. Just 3 meters left. Watase then slipped right past the engine cutter and leapt at Jun. Jun gasped. Watase embraced her.
どうした？やらないのか？俺はお前に殺されるなら本望だぞ。
Jun's body froze right up.
本気で言ってるの？
ああ、半分はな。だが、お前がそんなことできる女じゃないと信じているんだ。
信じてる？何を根拠に？隊長が私の何を知ってるのさ。
I know that you I've gotten to know over 5 hours.
知ってるさ。お前は俺のバディだ。背中を預けた相棒だ。お前が俺を信じてくれなくても、俺はお前を信じる。それは変わらない。
Just then, Jun breathed a silent breath.
そうだったね。
Dead.
どれだけ怪しいところがあっても、隊長は私のバディだもんね。
The edge in Jun's voice had vanished. Watase carefully chose his words as he spoke.
もし今でも俺をそう思ってくれるなら、バカな真似はやめてくれ。お前はレスキュー隊員だろ。命を救うのが仕事だろ。
Shit. Well, this is unfortunate. Watase's eyes widened. Just as Jun pushed him away from her, Watase was taken by surprise and fell to the floor. Shit, is she really gonna kill me? Watase looked up in shock. Jun's next attack never came. She just took a step back and looked at Watase.
隊長、レスキュー隊員の仕事は命を救うことだって言ったよね。だからこそやらなきゃならないことがあるんだ。わからなくていいよ。隊長たちはもう行って。これ以上このことについて話したくないから。
Those words shook the foundation of Watase's beliefs. She talked like Watase wasn't her target.
森部、お前、一体何が目的なんだ?
A terrorist.
私がこれからやることを隊長だけには知られたくない。
Or do they really believe that Ena's the terrorist? There's evidence to support that. There's also evidence to support Watase being the one to shoot Natsuhiko at the start of the game. And then what? Current theory. Watase shoots Natsuhiko at the start of the game. Natsuhiko, in his dying breath, kind of brain jacks him.
だけどね、これバディの関係は
Eh?
もう解消だよ。
Jun then turned around and broke off into a run down the connecting passageway.
待て、森部、教えてくれ、お前は何を?
But Jun refused to answer that question and disappeared behind the security gate. Watase soon heard the sound of Kazami running up to him.
隊長、ご無事ですか?
Watase didn't answer her. He just stared at the shut security gate.
どうなってるんだ?
わかりません。ですが、先ほどからああなのです。まさかあの子があんな風になるなんて。
Lament filled Kazami's face. Watase wrapped his arm around her shoulders and spoke.
すまん。説得は失敗だ。騒ぎを聞きつけて、浮田のおっさんも来るかもしれない。ひとまずここを離れよう。
Watase and Kazami carried Natsuhiko and Sally on their backs again and ran down the passageway. They looked around for a place to hide without stopping. They fled into the area of the connecting passageway and closed the gate before Kazami chose to speak up in a frightened voice.
しかし隊長、どこに逃げればいいのでしょう。
Oh. We're still on the scene? Yeah, we're still technically on this scene. While they didn't know that what Jun's motive was, they couldn't let their guard down so long as she had her engine cutter. If her target happened to be Natsuhiko or Salyu, then they'd be screwed no matter what room they hid in. She'd just break down the door.
だが、夏彦たちを背負ったまま逃げてじゃ、いずれどこかで捕まっちまう。
Okay, Watase checked his watch. It read 2:51 p.m. Okay, now we can skip. And that's it for Jun's epilogue. Now I'm assuming the rest of the ending's gonna proceed as normal. I was gonna say, a bit of the conversation I found out after finishing the good ending for the first time. Someone asked, "Did you get all the character epilogues?" The what now? But yeah, the scene with Kazami right before he went into the pipe, our first attempt to leave. That was Kazami's character epilogue. We've now seen Jun's, and next we're gonna go get Ena's, which I suspect is gonna be earlier in the timeline. We can actually do this, which I didn't realize we could do. We can team with Ena?
はぐれてしまう危険性が高いです。やはり2チームに分かれるべきでしょう。
Watase mulled over the situation once he heard Kazami's reasoning. Then how should we split up the teams? And quickly came to a conclusion.
先生、俺と組もうか。
え、いいわよ。
それなら僕もそちらのチームについていこう。
Do you have to?
え、
なんだね。何かまずいかね。
Ukita glared at the surprised Ena. Is the old man still sore about what happened a few minutes ago? Watase spoke up before a similar crisis could repeat itself.
わかった。おっさんも俺たちと一緒に行こう。先生もいいかい？
I mean, we just wanted to flirt and be alone, but...
それで、チーム分けは俺たち3人と立花たちで分かれるとして、捜索。
それについては私に考えがあります。
Kazami took out a PDA and began explaining.
我々が現在いるのは第5エリアになりますから、第4エリア方面に進むチームと
Which
第
direction are
6エリア
we?
方面に進むチームに分かれましょう。
じゃあ合流地点は？
我々もすれ違う可能性がありますから、ここでいいのではないですか。ぐるっと回ってなお要救助者に出会えなかったら再度出発すればいいと思います。不測の事態が起きたり1時間経っても何の成果も上げられなかった時も一旦ここに戻ることにしましょう。
だな。ならはぐれる心配もない。
AD はどうする？これ全部持ってく？
Jun was talking about the 30 AD they just found.
いや、なるべく置いていこう。何かあって破損でもしたら本当にやばいし。それにひょっとしたら彼らがここに来るかもしれん。そうすれば少なくとも彼らの手に渡る。
では我々はひとまず2時間分1人当たり2本持っていきましょう。
Kazami said that and then gave the rest of the group 2 AD for each member.
じゃあついでにこんなのはどうかしら？
Okay, we can skip through this. Watase's team also took 2 of the Prokians, while Kazami's team took the 3rd.
じゃあ俺たちが第6エリア方面へ進むから、立花と森部は第4エリア方面へ進んでくれ。
了解しました。森部、行きますよ。
了解。
2 of them departed in the direction of Area 4.
さて、俺たちも行くか。
そうだな。こんなところでグズグズしてはいられない。
行きましょう。
Anna posted the note she'd written earlier on the door and replied in a grave voice. The atmosphere among the team really was strange. Maybe those two aren't getting along. Now that he thought about it, the 2 of them had argued quite frequently these past few hours. Watase left the room with Ena and Ukita as he kept those tiny fears in his heart. The team took a quick look through Area 5 just to be safe, then moved on to the factory. The large, messy room was still as a grave. No one here from what I can see.
だがユーリ君がこちらに逃げてきている可能性もある。
それにひょっとしたらここに何か使えそうなものがあるかも。
ああ、未発見の AD がないとも限らないしな。
Just because they'd found a ton of AD didn't change the fact that they didn't have enough for everyone. And their time was still just as limited as always. To be more careful to make sure we don't waste any time from this point onwards. Watase spoke with that thought in mind.
よし、それじゃ広いから手分けして探そう。俺はこっちの方を捜索する。おっさんは奥の方、先生は真ん中あたりを頼む。
任せて。
了解した。
The team nodded at each other and began searching every nook and cranny of the factory. They investigated for a while before Anna called out.
隊長さん、ちょっと来て。
Watase ran over to Anna.
これ、なんだと思う？
Watase looked down at Anna's feet to find a lot of scorched vinyl lumps lying there. Each one was about the size of a person.
焼けて変形してしまっているようだが。
Watase picked one of these lumps up and looked it over. It was stiff and covered in soot, so it was extremely difficult to tell what it originally had been at first. After examining it for a while, Watase felt like he was starting to understand what it was.
これ、元は防護服だったんじゃないのか？
防護服って、放射線防護服？
そうだよ。ほら、この部分が腕で、こっちが足で、明体らしきものもついてる。
Plot twist, there were people in them. Probably not, but it seems there was little room to doubt. Little to no doubt that the lumps were the remains of production suits that had burned up in the fire. The same kind of suit Kazami and the other rescue workers had worn, but the material felt slightly different. There were letters written on the suit's skin. Watase barely made them out. NBC.
NBC?
Just Watase muttered this.
君たち何をやっているのかね。
Ukita came running over to them.
ああ、いや、何か気になるものがあったからさ。
気になるものだと？
これだよ。ここで防護服の開発もやっていたんだな。
Kita's face froze over when he heard that.
ああ、確かにそのようだが、なぜ君らはこそこそとそんなことを調べているんだね。
Oh, shut up.
今は AD や要救助者、それから脱出口を探す時間ではないのかね。
If these suits were functional, they'd be quite useful.
確かにそうね。ごめんなさい。ちょっと気になったものだから。
Kita replied to Ena's apology with a low voice.
気になったからだって。君には前も言ったね。施設内を漁るのはやめてくれたまえ。
ちょっと待ってくれ。なぜそんな怒るんだよ。
前に言った通り、第5、第6エリアは機密の塊だからさ。僕ら一般の研究員でさえ勝手に入ったら厳しく処罰されるほどのセキュリティが敷かれているんだ。
We'll make sure you get punished later. Don't
どう
worry.
してそこまで。
ここで研究されているものが莫大な富を生むからさ。例えば最新鋭の防護服の開発にいくらくらいかかっているかわかるかね。およそ15億円程度だ。
Whoa.
何？
この残骸の開発に15億円ですって。
ああ、もっとも君らシリウスが使っているのはもっと安い普及タイプだがね。もちろん AD の開発にはもっとかかっている。人の命が動くほどの額だ。いい機会だからはっきり言おう。もし君たちが重要な機密を見てしまった場合、今後の身の安全は保証できないぞ。
Kita's eyes slanted as he said that.
本気で言ってるのか、おっさん。
もちろんだ。僕だってこの施設に勤める前は、たかだか原子力研究所がそんな荒いことをするなんて思いもしなかったさ。だが実際、以前にも機密文書を盗んだ上で仕事を辞めた同僚がいたんだが、彼は1週間も経たないうちに行方不明になった。
Damn.
君たちまともな世界に生きる一般人が想像もできないような世界がこの世には存在するんだよ。好奇心は猫を殺すとはよく言ったものだ。決して見てはいけないものがこの施設内にはたくさんあるのさ。わかったかい？僕が神経質になる理由が。
There was a silent intensity to Akita's words. Watase was swallowed up by that intensity and found himself replying on instinct.
わかったよ。気をつけよう。
ええ。
それでは捜索を続けようか。
Watase nodded, all while feeling that there was something akin to a deep darkness somewhere in this facility. Well, that's an interesting scene. Okay, new scene. It's been nearly an hour since they last searched this place. The team opened one of the nearby doors and went in. We're faced with a large laboratory. There were a lot of blind spots, meaning it'd be hard to tell right away if anyone happened to be collapsed behind one of them.
いないとは思うが、一応探そう。
ええ。
了解した。
The team then began their search of the room. There was no hide nor hair of the survivors or any AD. I could find some information on how to escape from here instead. As this thought crossed Watase's mind, he heard Ena talking to herself deeper into the room.
あら。これ何かしら。
何？
Watase ran over to Ena. She was pointing at a whiteboard. Written on it was the following: From the tier rain to Altair and the bridge of bird wings, did you guys manage to escape? Or are you still here? I haven't found you after all my searching, so perhaps you're long gone. But I'd like to reunite with you as soon as possible if you are indeed still here. You guys are the ones reading this to answer the following question. Was Sirius able to escape from his cage on that night of the full... What? That's new.
なんだこれ。
Normally one would expect to see, say, sentences concerning the contents of some discussion held during a meeting written on the board. This didn't look like that at all.
誰かから誰かに当てた指針のようだけど。
Very specific.
ほら、私がさっき書いた置き手紙みたいな。
そうか。シリウスといえば俺たちレスキュー隊の名称だが、まさかこれって俺たちのことか。
そう考えると、この隔壁が閉鎖されたラボに閉じ込められたって状況は檻のようにも思えるわね。でも満月の夜というのは何かしら。今日は確か満月じゃないし、そもそもまだ夜ではないわよ。
なんだろうな。
Might as well be complete gibberish to them. As Watase looked over those sentences. A strange feeling welled up in him for some reason. It's by no means an unpleasant one. It's a warm and heart-rending emotion, mixed with nostalgia, relief, and sorrow.
どうしたの隊長さん。
いや、よくわからないんだが。
Just then Ukita called out to them from behind.
今度は何をやっているのかね。
まあ、先生が妙な文章を見つけてな。
Ukita's just babysitting us.
浮田さん、意味わかる？
Ukita glanced at the whiteboard, then sighed.
僕には意味がわからんが、それよりこんなことをしている暇はあるのかね。
いや、しかし気になるじゃないか。
そうよ。もしかしたら鳥羽さんか三宮さんが残した書き置きかもしれないのに。
書き置き？バカな。だとしたらどうしてこんなわけのわからない文章にするのかね。
じゃあ何なのよ。
僕に聞かれてもわかるわけがないだろう。というか、こんなくだらないことにいちいちとらわれるんじゃない。創作がさっぱり進まないじゃないか。
Everything Ukita said from start to finish was harsh. Ena was clearly not happy about his attitude, but she said nothing. This is bad. The atmosphere's been totally strained for a while now, thanks to the old man. That said, yelling at him to shut up wasn't an option either. It'd just lead to more bickering like before. Thus Watase spoke in the friendliest voice he could muster.
ま、これについてはおっさんの言う通りかもな。な、先生。この文章のことは頭に留め置いて、ひとまず創作を続けるとしようぜ。
Ena looked even more peeved at Watase's dismissal, but she eventually just snorted.
わかったわよ。そうするわ。
Watase breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that. At the same time, it finally hit him. Searching together with just these two civilians was extremely difficult. No, I mustn't complain. I need to be more level-headed. I need to keep up the search while making sure those two don't get into fights. Watase mentally resolved himself and left the room with Ena and Ukita. The team finished up their search of B2 not 3 minutes later. It had turned up fruitless as always.
次は地下1階に行きましょうか。
ああ、だがこの塔の非常階段は崩れちまってるんだ。
何？じゃあ君はさっきどうやって捜索したんだね。
崩れた階段の代わりにロープを使ったのさ。だが先生やおっさんが登るにはちょっと無理があるな。
Could carry one of them on his back, but it would take far too much time with two, or for them to climb the rope individually.
他のエリアから回り込む？
いや、時間がもったいない。エレベーターシャフト内のはしごを使おう。
まあ、なんでもいい。それで行こうじゃないか。
ええ。
Watase headed for the elevator hall after getting Ena and Ukita's approval. Then opened the elevator doors like last time and checked inside. The shaft was full with thick darkness.
ここを登っていくの？
怖いなら残ってもいいんだがね。
バカ言わないで。一緒に行くわよ。
いや、待て先生。一応俺が先に行って安全を確認しよう。先生たちは後から追ってきてくれればいい。
そう？それじゃあ気をつけてね。
Watase nodded, then entered the shaft. He aimed for the top as he climbed his way up through the pitch-black darkness. Felt a bit nervous about the constant creaking the ladder was making. The ladder only got unsteadier the higher he climbed. Perhaps the fire that had been upstairs had hit the elevator shaft as well. This might be a bit hard on Teach. Watase thought that as he closed in on B1. Then he heard voices coming from below. Watase strained his ears. It seemed Ena and Ukita were talking downstairs.
釘ばかり刺している。でもあなたはどこまで知っているの？この施設のこと。
Well.
とぼけない。本当はもっと重要なことを知っているんじゃない？決まってるじゃない。隔壁が開かない理由よ。
だからそれは放射能漏洩防止システムが。
本当にそれ以外の理由があるんじゃない？
いや、まだそんなこと言っているのかね。だからもういい加減にしたまえ。
Ena and Okita's voices were growing passionate. It seemed yet another argument was erupting between them. Seriously? I take my eyes off them for one damn minute and they're at it again? Pairing these two up was the worst idea ever. What as they tried to stop them from the shaft? All he got in return was angry shouts from Ena. I seriously don't have time for this. As he tried to quickly climb down the ladder to stop them, then he heard a thick sound at his feet. The ladder's stair had broken. Watase danced in the darkness for a moment, feeling as though he were floating. Oh shit. All Watase could think to do was flap his arms wildly. His head then collided with something. Another one of the ladder stairs. Immediately grabbed onto it. In nearly the exact same moment, Watase's body hit the floor. Hit his back hard. Oh damn. The impact reached all the way up to his brain, quickly robbing him of his consciousness. As he passed out, Watase swore he could hear Ena shouting. That's interesting. So, whatever way we go, a rescue worker gets injured. No matter what.
さん、ねえ、しっかりして隊長さん。
Watase woke to the sound of someone calling his name. When he came to his senses, he noticed he was lying on the floor of the elevator hall.
よかった。目覚めたのね。
Ena stared at Watase's face with a look of worry.
Sensei.
Seems like a good choice. Watase tried to sit up, only for a sharp pain to shoot through both his head and back.
まだ無理しない方がいいわ。脳震盪を起こしたんだから。
Watase nodded weakly, then noticed there was a soft sensation against his head.
先生、これもしかして。
膝枕よ。いけなかった？
いけないってことはないが、なぜ？
だって頭打った人を硬い床に寝かしておくのも気が引けたんですもの。
Fair.
対処として間違ってるかもしれないし、気に入らないんだったらやめるけど。
いや、だったらお言葉に甘えるよ。
It was a little embarrassing, but he had no reason to refuse. The question then came to his mind.
ところで、ここは？
第6エリアの内周と、さっきのエレベーターホールよ。はしごから落ちたことは覚えてる？
He said that he recalled that he'd grabbed onto the ladder before he'd smashed into the ground. It seemed that action had slowed his momentum down enough to keep him from getting severely injured.
どのくらい気絶していたんだ？
ほんの数分よ。
そうか。おっさんは？
Kita was nowhere to be seen. Ena answered with a bitter look on her face.
捜索を続けると言っていたから、ひとまずプロキオンを渡して先に行かせたわ。
一人でか
Watase sat up on instinct. Ena then replied to him calmly.
そうよ。第一エリア方面へ行ったはず。
だったら俺は放っておいて先生も行けばよかったのに。
そんなわけにはいかないわよ。それに 浮田さんと二人きりになるのは嫌だわ。
それはどういう意味だ？
And his face clouded over at that question.
あなたも分かってるでしょ。彼は少し危険だわ。リフトのところで死体を見てから雰囲気が変わったように思えるし。
確かにそうかもしれないな。でも抑えてくれよ。おっさんだってここまで一緒にやってきた仲間じゃないか。
仲間ね。
Anna locked eyes with Watase, lowering her voice.
あの人本当に仲間と呼べるのかしら。隠し事が多すぎるような気がするわ。こんなこと言ったら怒られるかもしれないけど、どうも不信感が募ってしまって。
No, I'd say they're justified. We still have a lot of unknowns about a bunch of us.
ねえ隊長さん、あなた記憶喪失になる前にすでに浮田さんと出会っていると言っていたわね。
ああ、おっさんが言うからそうなんだろう。
何か覚えていることはない？彼についての何かを。
Watase searches through his memories, but
すまない。そのあたりの記憶はまだ戻ってないんだ。とにかく俺は彼からセキュリティカードを奪って第3エリアに閉じ込めたとのことだ。分かっ
oops, sorry. Watase had done that to make sure that Ukita, who had been panicking from the case and announcement, didn't do anything rash. Perhaps Ukita still had a grudge against him for that.
私も実はそこが妙だと思っていたのよ。普通そんなことするかしらって。むしろこうは考えられないかしら。災害発生時に不審な動きをしていた彼を隊長さんが見つけ、緊急処置として拘束した。
That would make sense if we didn't already reach the good ending and have different suspicions about Watase. Watase's eyes widened at Enna's theory. I never considered that. It certainly was possible. Her theory is correct, and that means the truth is buried in darkness once I lost my memories after that. The old man then took that opportunity to play innocent and join up with us with the ultimate goal of escaping. Watase quickly stopped his train of thought there.
しかしそんなことは考えたくない。おっさんが事故発生当時に何かを企み不審な動きをしていたとしても、俺が彼を拘束するために第3エリアに閉じ込めたなんて、そんなことはレスキュー隊の仕事じゃないだろう。
レスキュー隊の仕事じゃないって？
そうさ、レスキューってのは人の命を救うのが仕事だ。火災が起きてる施設内に意図的に人を閉じ込めるなんて、そんなことはあっちゃいけない。記憶を失っていてもそれくらいは分かってる。
Anna stared intently at Watase, then started speaking in a bitter voice.
ご立派ね。でも本当にそれでいいと思う？
え？
浮田さんのことをよく知りもしないのに無条件に信じるなんて危険だわ。命がかかってる状況なのよ。怪しい人は疑うべきじゃないかしら。
Anna was looking at him with questioning eyes. Watase shook his head.
いや、それでも俺は誰も疑いたくない。誰かを疑いながら人命救助なんかできないだろう。
助けようとしている相手が悪人かもしれないのに。極端な話、人殺しだったとしても。
Anna's face was dead serious. That's why Watase answered honestly, with not a trace of doubt in his words or on his face.
助けるだろうな。こいつは悪人だから助けないとか、こいつは善人だから助けようとか、一瞬でも思ってしまったら、その時から俺はレスキュー隊員の資格を失う気がする。そうはなりたくないんだよ。
Anna's face warped at those words.
バカよあなた。
なんとでも言えばいいさ。 だが俺は疑うより騙される方がマシ。
いいえ、それじゃダメよ。そんな考えじゃ命を落としかねないわよ。
Watase was rendered speechless by Ena's sudden outburst. Ena cast her eyes down and spoke.
あなたに似た人を。
似た人？
私の父よ。人間は信じる心を失ったら終わりだって。それが父の持論だった。
いい親父さんじゃないか。
そうね。でも父はそれが原因で亡くなったわ。
亡くなった。
殺されたのよ。
Usually what happens when something costs someone their life, they are killed. Or die. Watase couldn't speak. He felt like he'd asked something he shouldn't have. In spite of that, Ena kept on talking about it as if they were having a normal conversation.
私の父は犯罪者の更生を指導する保護観察官という仕事をしていてね。
Oh.
社会の表には出ない地味な仕事だけど、父はその仕事に使命感を持って真摯に取り組んでいたの。
What does that mean, operated underground?
そんな親父さんはどうして？
ある時、父が新たに担当した保護観察対象者が誰もがさじを投げた危険人物よ。それでも父はその対象者に正面から向き合い、更生の手助けをしようとした。でもそれが良くなかったのね。相手にある夜、心を許したその対象者に刺されて。
Oh, Jesus. Ena kept looking bitterly at the ground as she gritted her teeth. Watase only barely managed to speak, and even then his voice was faint.
犯人は？
とっくに捕まって裁かれたわ。父の死は無駄死にに近かったのかもね。
Ena looked up and stared straight at Watase.
私は父の生き方を尊敬しているし、今でも父のことが大好きだわ。父とは少し違うけれど、教師という社会に貢献する仕事にも就いた。だけど父のように無条件に人を信じることができないの。それは危険だって思ってしまうのよ。だからあなたにも。
End of like him? Somewhat different expression rose to Ena's face when she said that. One that was as hard as steel and yet as brittle as stone. Watase looked straight into that face and answered in a quiet voice.
先生、俺はそれでもおっさんを含め皆のことを信じたいよ。これまで一緒に頑張ってきた仲間なんだから。
But taking Ena's feelings into consideration, Watase wondered if he perhaps should have left that unsaid. Ena instead just replied with a faint yet sad tone in her voice.
そうよね。あなたにはあなたの信念があるのだものね。それに随分不吉な話もしてしまったわ。あなたと父は違うのに。
いや、いいさ。話してくれてありがとな。
Ena laughed somewhat awkwardly in response. Her face had already returned to that of a calm teacher.
さあ、そろそろ捜索を再開しましょうか。
あ、俺もすっかり回復したよ。子供たちを早く見つけなきゃな。
ええ、必ずね。
Watase and Ena ran off towards Area 1 to find Ukita. Oh, here we are. Ran through the entire hallway, but he was nowhere to be found. Well, we don't want to go low.
浮田さんはもう第2エリアに行ったみたいね。時間がもったいないわ。私たちも先に進みましょう。
そうだな。
Watase nodded in agreement and headed for Area 2. Alright, here we go. Do we still have Ena with us? This time we have Ena with us to talk about the BC stuff. Ena took a look through the pages.
この エンパシーって能力は本当にあるのか？
ええ、言っていなかったかしら。 BC は離れたところにいる人と意思を伝え合う能力と言ったわよね。相手に心の声を伝えるだけではなくて読み取ることもできるの。
Watase looked at the bookshelf in shock to find that many of them had the phrase BC in their titles. Get through? Watase couldn't hold his question back. Could the three kids read
先
minds?
生、もう一つ聞きたい。あの子たちはエンパシーを使えるのか？
使えないわよ。
Ah,
鳥羽さんはテレパシーを自由自在に使えるけど、あとの二人は BC 自体苦手なはず。
Toba's an expert telepath, the other two are bad. That true?
ねえ、それがどうかしたの？
Watase didn't answer Ena's puzzled question and retreated back to his thoughts. Oop! Ena gasped as she noticed the sudden shift in Watase's condition.
どうしたの？隊長。
いや、急に気分が
大丈夫？
悪い。トイレに行ってくる。先生はここで待っててくれ。
ちょっと隊長さん。
And we're clear here. What do we see in the mirror? I feel like we saw a vision of Toba there.
あの時も言ったでしょ。ここから先は。
Definitely saw a vision of Mashiro there. And then that other girl who's related to us somehow. This is also new.
いや、そんなことより先生、サリュが言っていたことを森部たちに伝えた方がいいんじゃないか？
何のために？
決まってるだろう。サリュが言うには、俺にも何か怪しいところがある。そのことを森部とおっさんに伝えれば、あんたに向けられた疑惑の目が俺の方に向くじゃないか。
Ena's eyes widened when she heard that.
呆れた。まさかそれ私のためってこと？
いけないか？
いけないわよ。何でも話せばいいってもんじゃないわ。ただでも私の拳銃のせいでみんな先立ってしまってるのに。
I wasn't expecting there to be so much extra Ena content.
っていうか大体ね、さっきもあなたは私をかばうべきじゃなかったのよ。銃のことを黙っていたのは私のミスだったんだから。何の根拠もなく私の言葉を信じたあなたはすでにあの二人に疑われかけてるかもしれないのよ。
I wonder if this came about because we sided with Ena over Jun in the first gun choice.
だからこれ以上。
いや、根拠ならあったさ。
え？
俺が先生を信じられると判断したからだ。
Uh-huh.
まだそんなことを言うなんて。私が何のために父の話をあなたにしたと思ってるの？
Ena looked truly irritated as she said that.
いい隊長さん。今このラボでは確実に何かが起きてる。さっきの爆弾のこともそうだし、三宮さんが逃げたのだってきっと私たちの知らない理由があるのよ。悪意を持った誰かが裏で動いているに違いないわ。気を抜くと本当に命を落としかねないわよ。生き残るためには周囲のあらゆるものを疑ってかかりなさい。
Okay, now we're back on point with our normal message.
この施設のことも場合によっては自分自身の見聞きしたものも
ずいぶん教師らしからぬことを言うんだな。
失望した？でも教師というのは思いのほか懐疑的なものなのよ。何でもかんでも信じてちゃ守るべき生徒も守れないもの。
Fair.
強いんだな、教師ってのは。
Ena let out a heavy sigh when Watase said that in what could be called an admiring voice.
ダメよ隊長さん。私の今の言葉だってちゃんと疑ってかからなくちゃ。
Can't help it, I'm like a little puppy dog.
そうだな。信じれば騙されるかもしれないしな。先生の親父さんの話を聞くと、信じるってことにはリスクがついて回るってことになるんだな。
But I still want to trust you. You're a fool!
分かってるんじゃない。 こんな状況だと余計にそうなのよ。
Ena gave him a scorning glare. Watase looked right back at her and spoke with a clear voice.
それでも俺は先生のことを信じるよ。リスク抜きの真偽なんて嘘っぱちだろ。自分だけ安全なところにいて信じるだの信じないだの、そんなのは何の力も持たない言葉だ。だからこれからも先生が疑われれば無条件に信じるしカバー。きっと先生の親父さんもそうするはずだよ。
Oh, Watase declared all that in a quiet voice. He filled each and every one of his words with his desire to affirm the life of Ena's father. When he did, Ena let out a somewhat sad smile.
まったく本当にバカなんだから。
It didn't say anything else after that. The group then finally arrived at Area 6. Alright. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the trigger for Ena's. And we just have to, yeah, just keep it like this. However, Ena spoke up in an exasperated voice when she saw what Watase trembling.
まったくあなたにはがっかりだわ。だってそうでしょ。あなた自分のことも信じられない人の言葉じゃ全然当てにならないんだもの。
すまん。
やめて。そんな自信のなさそうな顔私に見せないで。あなたは確かに疑わしいわ。監視カメラの一件にしても記憶喪失の件にしてもね。でも私はね、それを差し引いてもあなたを信用したいと思ったのよ。なのにあなたがそんな様子じゃ。
だが俺には過去の記憶がないんだぜ。もし記憶を失う前の俺が悪意のある人間だったとしたら。
記憶を失う前のあなたなんてそんなの関係ないじゃない。あなたがみんなを助けるために必死に頑張ってくれたことは間違いのない真実なのよ。それを見ていた私の言葉があなたは信じられないっていうの？そう言葉だけじゃ足りないのね。分かったわ。だったら言葉以外のものをあげるわ。
Anna put her hands on Watase's shoulders as she said that. Oh. Watase froze on instinct when he saw Enna's face approaching him. However, Ena suddenly stopped just before their noses could come into contact with each other.
ねえ、こういう時はお互い目をつぶるのが礼儀じゃない？
その
いいから早くつぶりなさいよ。私に恥をかかせるつもり
Watase frantically shut his eyes. Yes, ma'am. Felt a soft sensation against his lips. And his lips were trembling ever so slightly. Watase opened his eyes to find Ena staring at him with a nervous look on her face.
どう？これで納得してくれた？私が心から隊長さんのことを信じてるって。
Watase had no clue what he should say. Without his memories, it was essentially the first kiss of his life. Anna swiftly looked away as if she could tell what Watase was thinking.
勘違いしないでね。これはその、なんていうか、おまじないみたいなものだから。
おまじない？
Anna let out a slightly lonely laugh when she heard that and continued.
そう。隊長さんが自信を取り戻せるようにするためのね。聞いたでしょ？結構ご利益があるはずよ。
Oh. Watase didn't understand the meaning of the smile Anna was giving him. Those feelings she was showing him were the real thing.
ありがとう、先生。俺は先生が信じてくれた。今の俺を信じるよ。
There was someone out there who truly believed in him, even when he couldn't believe in himself. Watase was grateful for that more than anything else right now. He felt like he could trust her with his whole life.
なあ先生。もし今の俺が消えるようなことがあったとしたら、そして記憶を取り戻した俺が 悪意にまみれた人間だったとしたら、その時は先生が俺を止めてくれないか。
Ena's face darkened for a second at those words. However, she gently smiled at him and nodded. Watase's heart lightened at that moment, his reservations completely disappearing.
だがどうする？森部も浮田のおっさんも俺を心底疑っているぞ。
And that'll be all. And this time, this is at the actual end. We've seen all the extra content we're gonna get. We don't need to see that again. This is the end of After. We've covered everything we're gonna see. We got some extra scenes, like taking Jun to the upstairs of the factory, teaming up with Ena, which I legitimately didn't know we could actually do until I went back and played that part again with the answer option unlocked. We got some really interesting Ena lore too. So we finally got a complete picture of our three heroines. Gotta say, Ena's still looking real close with Kazami as far as best girl. And of course we still have the looming questions about how does Ena know how to use a gun so well, her relationship with the kids, Ukita's relationship to the whole thing. What does he know about what's going on in Labo? Who is Watase, really? Is he really a terrorist? There's something else going on? At the very least, is he working with Labo to help silence people? Which seems like the likelier option. That he's, like, part of the top secret Labo secret police, or whatnot. And somehow, whatever happens in After, to whatever happens in Before, with Natsuhiko, Salyu, and Mashiro, somehow they run afoul of the Labo secret police, aka Watase. And that's how the story of After starts. So, this is the actual end of Route After. We've seen everything we're going to see. When we return next time, we will actually start Before. Until then.